Okay, the clear narrative. Each style did it differently, okay, but they all follow that same classical model. These are two French rooms, okay, but notice that we've still got a pedestal, a column, right, and then our entablature up here, okay. Now the French did things completely weird and different than anybody else. It was always harder, always more different, always crazy, but the same compositions here, right? There's your pedestal, there's your column, and they've got a weird entablature. It's not that typical, Italian, architrave frieze. It's just scoop, right? That just represents that space. But that goes to the point on the modern thing is that you don't even have to use moldings. You could use colors, you could use fabrics, you could use metal, okay? But I would still encourage you to look at your space in this way, because you're introducing the human scale, but you don't have to do a formal cornice like that. You can do a big cove and, define it some way if you want. So the French are a good example of, hopefully cutting you loose, letting you know that there's design freedom here within the system that can help you, design and have fun, and yet still introduce scale and proportion, right? The English, okay, these are arms rooms at the Philadelphia Museum. Anybody been to the Philadelphia Museum? It's an incredible museum, okay, 1924, Fisk-Kimball. They have probably 30 or 40 period rooms. One of the French rooms was in there. They've got a ton of English rooms, but the English because the English weren't following the French, right? They were following Palladio, and Palladio's book was very famous in England, where you have the English country houses, which is a Palladian villa. And so they were much more Italian, much more canonical, okay? They were looking at Palladio's books and going, okay, we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this. Whereas the French were like, no, we're going to do this. And so notice that the English, right, we've got a much more formal pedestal, much more, typical canonical entablature, and then they oftentimes will have full columns in their rooms, and their decoration is wonderful and elegant, and these are both English spaces. But they did it differently. And then Robert Adam, okay, who I talked about discoveries from Pompeii and what he was doing, right? Compare that Georgian room there with the Federal room, okay? So with color, with very little ornamentation, but painted gold, right? And so these are, that's an incredible space. Not sure anybody wants to copy that necessarily, but he did some fun things with colors and brilliant styles that was a complete departure from that Georgian stuff, right? So our Federal stuff, think about that Washington interior we were looking at earlier, this is where we got our ideas. We didn't copy them exactly, but that is where that came from.